Okay, thanks for coming. A couple of comments first. As I try to do every time, with sincerity on behalf of our players and the staff. Buckeye Nation was awesome. They're up in that right-hand corner up there, but thanks for following us. Also, with great respect for our opponent. That was a real one. That was a very talented team, and that quarterback. I just always try to do that. Notice is always try. I talked to Coach Shano today that McSorley is a war daddy now. That's his competitive guy, and like I said, I don't know him personally. Competed against him for several years, and so very competitive player and great player. So with that said, review champions with you on defense. You got Jonathan Cooper. Played very well. Davon Hamilton, Malik Harrison, Pete Werner, Tuff Borland, Kendall Sheffield, Jeffrey Okuda, Jordan Fuller. Defensive player of the game was Chase Young, and 3 tackles, 3 assists, 3 tackles for loss, 2 sacks, 2 QB hurries, and 2 QB knockdowns. Ohio State offensive champions, you got J.K. Dobbins, 20 touches for almost 120 yards, 2 touchdowns. Weber played well, still battling through that foot, but he should be getting close to 100% this week. You have receivers, Ben Victor. I've been telling you about him since the last couple weeks, and his 47-yard reception, I believe that's what it was a game changer for us. Johnny Dixon, KJ Hill, and Austin Mack. Guys are playing this selflessness and blocking. You guys remember in 2014, I made comments about that group, and this is still too early, but there's a lot of similarities between that group, and obviously Evan Spencer was the lead guy back then, and I'm looking at these guys and some of the things they're doing A to Z with the receiver play on special teams, etc. is phenomenal. You have offensive linemen. You got Isaiah Pryor, Demetrius Knox, and Michael Jordan. And you got the player of the game, which is incredible. Didn't have 1 catch, but Terry McLaurin was offensive player of the game. And I'd say, what's the culture, what's the expectation level of to play here? He's the epitome right now. Once again, with great reverence, I use the word Evan Spencer around here. I've been told not to get carried away at times. I do. Get carried away with guys like Terry McLaurin. I can't. Him and Paris, those guys just go so hard. So leads me into this. Player of the game on special teams, we have 4 of them. Jeffrey Okuda had 23 production points, but he had 3 tackles on punt, and he was a first down on kickoff. He's performing at an elite 11. And we punted far too many times, but that's 9 punts. 9 punts, so a 50-yard net. I think it's 48 net. Just do the math. Not a math major, but that's a lot of yards. Throughout the course of the game against a very good team, an excellent returner, and then also playing all his plays on defense. Justin Hilliard is also co-player of the game. Kickoff was phenomenal, and punt was phenomenal, and he's on all 4 units. Elite player for us. Terry McLaurin, he had 3 tackles on punt. He downed the punt on the 2-yard line. And just once again, I just stand with those guys on the sideline. Him and Okuda were just blown out, and to the point where most average human beings would pull themselves out of the game for a blow, and they're not doing it. So it's phenomenal, and especially when Damon Arnett went down in the 4th quarter, there's more stress on Jeffrey Okuda. Our punter is, I can't imagine one better. I haven't really studied the country, but they had 9 punts, which was far too many, but 47-yard net. 47-yard net. I want to say they had 2 return yards on 3 attempts. I think it's what it was. So that's where we're at. I could go on for the next hour and a half and talk about special teams, because that was as significant as anything, especially the punt coverage. It's elite right now, and it's driven by 2 guys that are also starters on offense and defense. There was a little bit of a call to arms meeting yesterday that we still need to get more production out of some people that have either been with the program for a year or 2, or freshmen that are talented, but they got to play. And so every team's dealing with it right now. Game 6 coming up, and we're banged up. like every team in the country, so guys have to contribute in some way or the other. That was the meeting yesterday. That'll be the continuation as we continue to move forward. I'll answer questions for you.
Middle row back, Patrick.
Urban, last year you guys had this big win over Penn State. You go to Iowa the next week in a bit of a letdown. When you have games like this with huge comebacks and high stakes, what's the message to the team this week to make sure the level remains where it needs to be?
We haven't had that conversation yet. We will. That's real. That's especially in places like Ohio State where you just won the Super Bowl, again, the Super Bowl, beat a really good team, and now you got to get ready for another really good team. So that'll be the message.
And when you look back at that game, do you think that the effect of the Penn State game carried over, or was it?
Look forward, I know.
Okay.
Yeah. Thanks.
Front row left, Mitch.
Urban, what specifically, looking at the defense, do you need to shore up, fix, whatever, to be effective down this stretch?
That's a great question. Well, you just have to evaluate the plays. And it'd be like saying, okay, on punt we did. Punt was really good other than 2 plays. That's not acceptable. We gave up 90-plus yard reception in man coverage. The safety's got to get them down and don't get beat in man coverage. We had the quarterback that was performing one of his best games in his career. Some of it was scramble, some was direct run. And then we all know around here that when you have that kind of player like we had for a long time, JT, dual threat guy, it's a hard thing to defend. We also threw on point. So the answer is you have to play better. I think that's the same conversation we've had, and we got to continue to work. I understand we have some new players, but it's week 6. We just can't give up those darn big plays. That's what it's been.
Far left, Lori.
Coach, you mentioned a call to arms yesterday. Your defensive coaches have been telling the guys they're still growing, maybe more than usual, and you've got a very inexperienced quarterback. I'm wondering if this team is a little farther from its ceiling than most teams would usually be at this point, even given what you saw Saturday night?
I think that's a great question because you're 5-0, and we haven't played close to our best game. I think TCU is a really good game. And it's all relative because they'll say, where were you and who did you play against? And you can say, oh, it's a great environment. It's a great environment, but what made that a great environment was players they had. So that was 2 sledgehammers going against each other, 2 very talented teams. So yeah, I think you watch the film and you're like, at times, awesome. I mean, just the 4th quarter on offense was, perfect. Not perfect, but well done. The first 2 quarters, you have to give credit. You can't just say, well, you didn't do this, you didn't do this. Look who you're playing against. They did a very good job of what they were doing, which was basically pressuring us 80% of the time, and we didn't handle it well. We ended up handling it very well in the second half. So this team, to answer your question, Maury, there is a tremendous ceiling on this, and we haven't gotten close to it.
Matt, far left.
Just health-wise, you mentioned Damon Arnett, Draymond Jones. How are they? How did you come out of that game? Because you used the word sledgehammer.
Yeah, it was a tough game. It was Draymond's probable. He has a sprain, but he's very probable. Damon Arnett's probable, and B.B. Landers didn't play himself, and Mike Weber didn't play himself. And they're closer and closer. They're better than they were last week.
And also, just what did you, in a situation like that, when JT was a freshman, you talked about that Penn State game was where he, really grew. I'm wondering from Dwayne's case, struggling or whatever, but then comes up big 96 yard. What did you learn about him? What did you learn about your team?
Yeah, those are usually conversations after the season. We write it in. Our focus is, I want to respect everybody here to start reflecting. We've got to get ready for the Indiana team that's at least 4-1. So at times we'll have that chat.
Front row middle, Dave.
Urban, if you're facing a 4th and inches situation, I know you guys are in the shotgun all the time, but why not mix in some quarterback sneaks in those situations?
A lot of different reasons. You see teams a lot that's operating 99.999 out of a shotgun. and they go under center and they drop the ball. Just because you don't do it. You know what I mean? We've had those conversations over and over again. We did it a couple of times with Cardell Jones, the under 14, I think. Those are questions, conversations. I'm just answering the question. I'm not saying we won't.
I mean, I guess the follow-up would be like, why not just practice it more? Because it seems like such an effective play in
Fully
football.
noted.
Fourth row back, Andrew.
Coach, a lot has been said about this group of receivers in terms of the weapons they are on the outside, but to have success in the screen game like you did Saturday, there has to be great blocking downfield. Can you talk about this group of receivers?
Elite blocking. Great's probably not a strong enough adjective right now for what's going on out there. That's, our line's done a great job, but we've got 3 captains. Ben Victor, I'm saying this because I love him. Darn near refused to block. Didn't play a whole lot. He had one of the biggest blocks of the game Saturday. One of the, down the left sideline. And we got the ball. We don't care about the ball, I care about blocking them. It was elite. We had a little moment together with the receivers, and Ben Victor, he's become, as Paris said, he's become one of us. And that's a pretty cool thing.
Second row middle, James.
Urban, we haven't seen in the past a lot of running back screens with this offense. We've seen the bubble screens and the RPO. We saw a lot of that with JK on Saturday. How much of that is maybe Ryan Day's influence, or just the personnel that you guys had?
We're together a lot, and it's just, we're a different team. We're, in the drop back pass, we're dropping back a lot. And so what's the natural progression is a tailback slow screen, and that was the big plays. I think Ben Victor's was number 1, I think, on the 4-yard line coming out. That's number 2. The slow screen to JK.
Third row, Dan.
You talked about Terry McLaurin and what he's done, the little things he does. How important is it for you to recognize someone like him as an offensive player of the game and make that example that it's not just about catching passes for someone like that?
What is the 7th year? That's always been kind of a, this unselfish player. It's the same thing when people, I see people smile. It's not real funny around here. When you score a touchdown, you go hug the lineman. You flip the ball to the official and you go hug the lineman. If not, you're not going to score anymore, because it's the selfless, it's the fellowship of a team. That's what it's all about. And so we spent, usually it's a 30-minute team meeting, probably 45 minutes yesterday, and every player on the team watched the play. Every player on the team. And there's 2 reasons you do that. Number 1 is to show and reward the efforts of a player, but I'm also talking to that player in row 9 that is a 4-star guy that thinks he's real good. But why aren't you on KOR, or why are you not running down on punts? Explain that to the team right now. Those are hard conversations to have, especially when you see Okuda and Terry. So we do that, and what I do with you is minimal compared to what we do with the team, because that's the belief of our program.
Also, KJ Hill scored the game-winning touchdown the other night. It seems like he has a knack for coming up with big plays and big games. What is it about him that you think leads to that?
Just what you said. He's a tough dude, man, and he's a really good football player. And his ball skills, he had the 1 catch on the other bubble screen. And he's a great blocker, so he can do it all.
Front row left, Doug.
Urban, whenever you talk about having the drop back passer this year, and we saw Trace running out there, we know how successful you've been with the quarterback, the dual threat quarterback in your career. Is there just a part of you that just still is not 100% comfortable with the idea of you just don't have a quarterback right? He's great, but he's just not going to run 20 times. Is that still hard for you at all?
Good question.
My guess would be it is.
We're 5-0. I have 2 very good coaches, more than that, I have a very good offensive staff. It's a comfort zone, like on short yardage, that I've been used to, and whenever people say, oh, you're running the quarterback again. But usually you see the official do this.
I made that joke for 5 years, but it worked every time, right? I mean, that's
Not every time.
most of the time.
You said you made that joke?
I
You're one of those guys?
quarterback draw on third
No,
down.
I think, yeah, well, those are great questions. We've had it, we've had Cardell, we've had Chris Leak in Florida, I had Alex Smith, who's a little bit of a dual threat, but he's more of a drop back guy. Well, that's our philosophy, who's the best quarterback out there? It's Dwayne Haskins, he's playing his, you-know-what off, and so keep doing it. So, yeah, I know one thing also is very comfortable now seeing those screens come out of his hands so fast, and seeing them, pinpoint accuracy. There's certain times of the game that I'm used to having something in my pocket that it's not there. And we had two situations Saturday that we have to figure that out. One we didn't make it, one we made it by that. And so those are all questions that we have, but to say I'm not comfortable, that's not fair.
But it's the whole thing, right, of you maybe have a philosophy as a coach, but you do what's best for your talent.
Always.
You've always said that.
Always.
But this is that in action, right?
Sure, this is exactly this. And, we're throwing for 340 a game or something like that, and we're winning games. That's our job. We're taking care of the football, and we're throwing the ball and utilizing some very good players, and he's a very good player.
And you mentioned earlier the idea of you guys are not at your ceiling yet with this team. I think that's pretty obvious with the kind of talent you have out there. I'm sure at times in your career, you've had teams maybe midway through the season where they're playing really well, but maybe you have an idea where it might be close to our ceiling. And then you have times where, man, maybe we're making some mistakes here and there, but there's a lot more there. How do you
You
coach
just don't
that?
have time. I don't, with
What's
all
that
due
like?
respect, it's, we won on the road twice against, in our opinion, I can't remember what TC was ranked, but that's a top 10 team on the road. And we went to Penn State on the road. I don't know many schools in the country done that yet this year. We've done it, we walked away with wins. And we, by the way, also lost one of the top football players in America on defense. We're just coaching our tails off to get guys better. It's once again the call to arms, like we mentioned earlier, about young players that have to contribute. There's a ceiling here is that we don't have time.
But
We're
you
just
know-
working on what we have to work on.
But you know how good this team is already, but you know it can even be better.
Not even close to it, right?
Front row right, Bill?
We've all seen Chase Young's talent, especially with Nick Bosa being out. The game that he had on Saturday, how much of a breakthrough is that? And how about ceiling? What is his ceiling?
He's had a little bit of an ankle, but he's been fighting through it. You saw glimpses, he played outstanding Saturday, and that ceiling word again, he's just a second-year player that's playing very well, and he has unlimited potential.
I know you didn't want to talk about Iowa, but this is the same situation, a huge win, going against a team that can be dangerous. What is
Very
your
dangerous.
message? What is your message?
Practiced really hard Tuesday, and we'll have that chat.
Far right, Blake?
I know you probably noticed, but have you had any interaction with Luke Fickle or Mike Vrabel on their pretty good starts here to their head coach?
I texted once and just throwing bunker mentality. I did text with Mike the other day.
You see your alma mater and
Had a kid there too. Yeah, I'm really happy for him.
you're not surprised by what
No,
Luke's done
Luke Fickle's
in year
elite.
two?
Luke Fickle's elite. Those are two guys that my coaching career, two of my favorite people on top of coaches.
Second row right, Tony?
Urban, last week we talked about the linebackers, the starting linebackers maybe not performing at their best. This past week, all three graded as champions. Was there a message this week to them or about them?
Play better and, let's get them in position to be successful. So that's the message.
Then also, when you're playing a game on the road against a Penn State or an opponent that you recruit against, how aware are you of the players that are visiting that weekend?
Mark Pantoni, our director of recruiting, really is. I hear a little bit, but it's all about hunting and third downs and all that.
Front row right, Austin?
Glenn, I know it's only Monday, so maybe you might not have a definitive answer at this point, but what do you think will play out at that other safety spot? I believe Isaiah's out for that first half. How do you address that, and does that position continue to be a concern for you?
Yes, it is. We haven't made a final decision. Jocelyn Lincoln playing well, and Sean Wade's the next, and Brendan Whiting. So we have three capables. This is going to be a big week of practice to determine what happens.
When you've had conversations with Greg, how often does that spot come up, and what are there common issues that you guys have seen through 5 weeks there?
Yeah, it's when one breaks, you got to get him down. We have a history of getting guys down because it's not going to be perfect all the time. We're a very aggressive man coverage team. And there's been a couple examples this week of not getting it now, so those are all things that we're working on.
And final two individuals, front row right, Tim?
Yeah, Urban, when you approach wide receivers about what it takes to play, and you broach the idea of blocking, I'm talking about a guy coming right in the door, what is, maybe it's not your comfort, but what is the conversation? You know, what is it that you express to them, and when do they usually get it?
It depends on the individual. You know, usually Mike Thomas, it took a while. You know, there's a rite of passage, and usually you have to perform on special teams before you catch a pass. You know, those are Ben Victor starting on kickoff return now. Never did that before. He's playing. You know, it was brought to my attention. I shared that with our team yesterday. That this all triggered when he started performing on special teams. He gets a sense of value, and he gets a sense of respect. You know, that whole thing about respect is not given, it's earned. How do you earn it? I'm going to go catch a pass. No chance. I'm not catching a pass here. You're going to go block. You're going to go be on special teams and be a football player. And then good things happen.
When in your background, I know you don't look back, but if you look back at this, when in your background did you come to that conclusion that if you're going to be a wide receiver, you're going to play for me? What was it that spurred that kind of thinking?
I think go high oak roots. I think the toughness, the part that's never going to change, whether you run a screen. You know, Terry McLaurin blocked 3 people on that screen.
Yeah.
And then, by the way, on the last touchdown, he blocked 3 people. And KJ did a really good job. He ran with the ball and kind of high-stepped it in the end zone, which is, you know, all due respect to KJ, that's fine, but his soulmate, he recognized that. So that's just been part of the DNA.
When you look at Indiana, what just jumps out at you from a defensive standpoint? They played pretty well. I mean,
No, they play very well.
Yeah.
They've got a bunch of new starters. Their scheme is outstanding. I think they're very well coached, and they got answers for everything. That's what we're just knee deep in it now. But that's my initial reaction. And obviously, very good players.
And then I think, do you expect teams to attack your defense on the edges? You know, they came out last year, were dropping dimes on those fade routes and stuff. Do you expect that to continue?
I don't think Penn State that was.
No, they did, but I'm talking about.
It depends on, you know, this quarterback they have, and I've not studied them yet, that's usually on Wednesday. But they have a guy that's a dual, you know, Cincinnati, Ramsey is a kid, you know, is a gutsy player, man. He's one of those guys that creates something out of nothing. So it depends on what you're facing. You know, last year's quarterback that they started was more of a drop back, and he was, like you said, dropping seeds on people. This guy's a very good thrower, but he's also got the other element.
And final question, Ari?
I've got 2 quick separate ones. Did you review the targeting calls on Isaiah, and what is your takeaway?
I just read it before I walked in. We turned it in, and it came back that they, first of all, you can't appeal it. I didn't know that. You can't appeal it. You know, I watched someone show me on the phone, and I'm all into the safety of this game. So I get it, I understand it. To say I agree with it, I don't have time to argue with it and all that. The call was made, and once again, you start talking about safety of players, we're all in here. And, there's no intent, there's no crowd, there's no targeting, and, you know, we've had a couple of those around here where the guy's going to try to wipe him out, but he's going for the ball. If you watch him, he's going for the ball, contact was made. So, once again, we don't have time to argue, it's done, and we're moving forward.
And then one other thing. As a coach, in a moment when you guys take a go-ahead touchdown the way you did there, how hard is it to get a 2-point conversion in general in college football? And it just seems like that play is kind of tough. And do you guys ever discuss having a specific play that you have?
Sure. Practice it every week. We usually have 2 or 3 in your pocket. You know, that we got moved back on the delay of game, which was, that's another issue that, you know, that chaos that's going on during the course of the game, and then just roll it. You know, we got to practice that. And obviously, that was a momentum. You know, that was a game-winning touchdown. We have to get that organized, get them on the field and go. But it's, you know, nowadays 3 yards is tough. I don't know the percentage. It used to be under 50%, but you're going to make a 2-point play. But we have to, you know, obviously it works. So we have to execute that.